done this in a week or so. What are we doing here? The on the 25th of February, that's going to be my game day. So hopefully you come hang out on Twitch. We're going to be playing some New World and some Destiny. On March the 11th is the next scheduled one. So if you guys are interested in doing the raids themselves, I'm going to move my camera here. We're going to be trying out and seeing if we can't knock out the new Lightfall raid in Destiny on March the 11th. That will be in the competition window. I do not know. If we can't get the 6 people, then we'll just do whatever. But I'm really, really excited. It's going to be a fun springtime. But Chris decided to take a couple of weeks off, at least a week off. It felt like longer in terms of just like I specifically did not send him
9 days. It took 9 days.
There was no messaging about what was happening. I did not want to. I wanted him to have a great time on his trip, and then B, also because today was just a real treat for him to kind of step in and kind of have to download a lot of different information from a lot of different people. And for me, I guess this is just kind of funny because I know we got dunked on a lot for our opinion about Liquid doing the raids and going back and going through the raids and all the analysis over like half a second whatever's that people determined that he either was or wasn't cheating. And we're like, we can't tell with all degree of certainty. And they're like, you guys are the worst. And then it's like, but what we could talk about, like, we've had a strong opinion about the world first race. We haven't called it a world first race. It's like, if you're not live, there's all kinds of things that are going on behind the scenes. And I think that we have kind of 2 big topics specifically. We have the whole raid world first ultimate, and then we have the whole G-Shade thing, which whenever
started going down the G-Shade rabbit hole.
If you guys want to go with Chris after just our show and him getting caught up and us getting jumped back into this, like, note that. Just be sure to follow the link over to Twitch because he's going to be absorbing this. I saw a little bit of it today, and I have to tell you, I feel so vindicated. I feel so like if you just wait long enough, the truth and all these things come out. Specifically because whenever like Addon Gate was dropping and everybody was, angry at each other and, all the witch hunting began last year, like everybody's like, well, G-Shade's fine. And I'm like,
they were the poster child of why Square should allow add-ons.
Yeah, the poster.
And there has been an argument that that's why Square is okay with G-Shade. Like there have been all these people that have quoted, I think it was a community manager that said G-Shade was fine. It was back in like 2.0. So I don't even know that like Yoshi P's ever come out, but it does seem like in general, G-Shade has not been, it's been the one that was not enforced. So, for that one to fall, makes that kind of puts to bed any like, okay, but this add-on's okay. Because if G-Shade ends, I don't know, people will just move to another shader. So I haven't seen all the drama yet, but they'll just move to another shader. It's not the only shader. It's not proprietary technology.
Right. Well, and you also can't truly like copyright it. You can't truly lock it down. It's like, hey, I built this thing and I put it on a public repository with the idea like, here it is. And like, I don't think you can, because it's also specifically messing with like a game's files. It's not like you're infringing on, the copyright of the person who wrote the G-Shade. So there are people who have the Git repo modified it, and I think that was essentially the crux of "I'll take my toys and go home, please" mindset. Where I think, it seems like they put in malware. Eventually, they got taken down because of that aspect. So it's really unfortunate, and I know it's been affecting people's computers. So to them, like I don't have any joy in that people's computers had issues. Like I don't have any joy in this situation, but at the same time, as somebody who doesn't use add-ons and who looks at like it was able to finally actually see that like through Addon Gate, like I was like, what is possible? I was like, wow, there's this like, holy crap. And then the good news is that Yoshi P started implementing those things in the game. In the last update, we now see damage types, right? Magic, fire. I'm assuming unknown was the third one. Like it's either magical damage, it's fire, it's physical damage, or it's mystery damage. But so I was just like, well, yep, that's that's kind of like the risk, right? And one of the things that you haven't seen yet, and I'm kind of curious is your thoughts, because I saw a comment regarding Horizon XI. Somebody was really like venting, like in my comments, talking about how Horizon XI, you know, the people who put that together, they built off the work of countless of others. And my response was like, well, of course, you know, of course, like if somebody solved the problem, you know, 10 years ago, and they're no longer solving those problems, it seems kind of weird to me to kind of have to go and try and recreate the wheel from scratch.
I have Reshade installed for WoW, and so I don't know if Reshade works for 14, but I assume that people will just move over to Reshade. So,
well, there you go.
Or use NVIDIA, which like I also pops up like every time I boot up anything. There's some like keybind that always just makes it pop. So like I could do. So that seems to be a thing that I could already do. I think 14 looks great. There are people who think the colors are too muted. I'm fine with it. I think Guild Wars looks great, so I don't use one for Guild Wars. But there are people that think Guild Wars could look better. I tried it for WoW, and ironically, like I never uninstalled it, but I didn't actually like it better. So it boots up every time, but I have every checkbox unchecked. So it boots up just because I haven't uninstalled it, and I ended up just not liking it. It made it too glowy. It made it too. I was like, no, it's fine. I'm fine with the art direction as it sits. So I don't know. That's so like I never got into the shader thing, but I assume that people will just move to a different shader.
Yeah, especially if Reshade was a branch off of it. I don't think it's that much of a time. How much do you think, outside of the G-Shade issues today, like obviously this all seems to kind of relate to the issues that have been in the game for a long time with the mods. You've gone and covered it with the whole raid scene. You read Mr. Happy's response. You've read, you know, you watched Xeno's reactions to like all the different mod applications. And have you seen the memes yet? Because I haven't been able to watch your whole stream today. Like, I don't know if you've.
I watched 2.5 hours of stuff on the top, all that this morning. Like we talked about it for 2.5 hours. I think that's plenty. There's probably more. The whole thing is ultimately like it comes down to Yoshi P's letter that he's incredibly frustrated.
Yeah.
I think people are reading that as like we're not going to get more ultimates, and I don't think they'll do anything like that. Like, no, I think that's a little far. Not that it doesn't frustrate them, but I think like them taking their toys and going home because of that would be like if people spoiled Endwalker, they're just not going to release any more story, and like I don't think they do that. Yeah. I get why that frustrates them. I do. I just don't think that it's going to be that pronounced. And I think that in 4 months, when we have 9 through 12, we're going to go through this again. It'll be different. Something about it will be different. But it ultimately, once you see this tier after tier after tier after tier, it eventually, they start to all feel the same. Every time this erupts, it feels a little bit unique. But like I just joked this morning, I was like, I should just chapter my video, and then I should just leave it in Premiere, and I'll release a 40-minute video for this one and get everybody caught up. And then in 9 through 12, I'll release the same video with a new 10-minute chapter on the end. And then we'll just keep doing 10-minute chapters. And then in 10.0, I'll be releasing the 3-hour add-on explanation video where it's just, and you're just watching me age. Like you're just watching all the gray come into the beard. You're just
he becomes the my name is Bife. He becomes the my name is Bife of like the Final Fantasy lore of add-on drama that continues to evolve. Welcome in and stay a while. Let's catch you up on 13 years of history of add-ons. It's so funny. The meme that I really enjoyed the most was like obviously the Yoshi P's frustrated, and then it cuts to, you know, the Muppet or whatever that's kind of looking to the side like Final Fantasy 11 director. Like, oh, don't look over here at us. As that is essentially kind of how the game is oddly supported. And so within their own company, it has always been my personal view that it's almost like what you're talking about with like when you were talking about like IKEA, like with licensing and properties and IP. Like it almost becomes a situation where they've kind of permitted it with this like just don't talk about it, and then all of a sudden it became where everybody's talking about it, and they're like, hey, we had a deal, like, you know, like we weren't going to bust on you, and we don't want to bring in kernel level anti-cheat. So the trade-off was not to share this and talk about this, and then it just doesn't seem like that is as what people are capable of anymore. People have to share.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really what it comes down to. And the one person says they like filed some whistleblower complaint because their video got linked out, but like it's an unlisted YouTube video, so I don't think they know how YouTube works. And so what happens is they probably use the link to like share back, hey, I'm going to annotate your video, you know, draw some things over the top or something like that, or I want to talk through something I watched on yours, so I recorded it. Let's talk through. I don't know how all they used it, but like even if they were just reposting like, hey, you were streaming to me on Discord, I was capturing, let's talk through that poll, and let's talk through kind of where we learn. Then that person seems to have maybe shared the link with at least one other, and then that person shared the link with at least one other. And so they're like, I don't know, somebody just shared it out. Yeah, that's how an unlisted video works. Like it can literally go into people's playlists, and now it's basically public. So now that video has 351,000 views, and they're like, how did people find this? It's like it's a digital key. Every time somebody shares it out, it's immediately like, just imagine if every time you loan somebody a key to your apartment, they copied it immediately. Just by the mere act of holding it, they copied it. And so then when they gave you your key back, they now have a copy.
Yeah.
And they go, hey, my buddy's got some extra beer. Let me give you the key. And then you can go over and steal his beer. And then that person now has a copy. And then they go to the grocery store. They're like, oh, they're out of bananas here. You can just go to Brian's and get some bananas. And so they give a key. And then it just spreads. And so now there's 351,000 people with a copy of the key.
And the names.
And then the fact that the names were in the description makes the whole thing kind of sus. Because it's like, why would you put anything in the description?
If the names weren't readable and
like when I use like when we've made unlisted videos for like when we work with advertisers, and they want to see the video, it gets our default description, and the default description has all sorts of like brackets in it and stuff, and all sorts of stuff to remind us, and like it's just an ugly description because they just want to see it. So like it doesn't get a real title, it doesn't get anything. Yeah. It's like like the title will be,
please review,
yes, please review, copy 1. Please review copy 2. Yeah. Please review copy 3.
And if it was me having to do like the ad read, it's like there's gonna be a lot of copies on this. Dadgummit, Brian, you just need to say these 3 words in order to meet what they are wanting. It's like, okay, that didn't go well.
So, yeah, the whole thing kind of blew up, and there's some cell phones where people are like, the guy that was in Happy's group, just guy or girl in Happy's group, just felt like I played a clip from Jackass 4.5 when we were reading theirs, because I was like, we just have to stop and like, guys, I have a visual of what this person is doing. And the guy uses a sledgehammer to knock the ladder out from under himself and then just eats it. And it's like, yeah, that's what's happening here. Like they just I know they think they were writing it in a way that like totally clears them of like, oh, we all get it. But they're like, I don't know. I just kind of like, I heard some people were doing this thing that I knew was wrong. And I just wondered what it would feel like to do the wrong thing. So then I was doing the wrong thing. And then like, I told myself I'd just do it on stuff I've already cleared and then never again, just because I was curious. So then I was on some content I hadn't cleared and I was doing it. And it was like, what did you think people were going to think?
Does this push the community into more what Frosty's doing with the world first actually being streamed, actually being kind of having that real-time moderation and review? Because one of the things that we were saying is like, you have the offline crew who will win, and they can always give you the cleaned up footage of, what it is. So like, there's a level of trust that you have. And then you have the people who are doing it online who, they could still have somebody like, in their ear. There's still ways they go about it. That was the whole Liquid situation last year. It's like, oh, someone's in his ear whispering or whatnot, so he's not truly blind. Like, does this further push 14 and the raid and the race actually in a more positive way? Because you and I have advocated that, like, it should be a spectacle. It should be viewable. It should be happening. But what you see online, what you see on Reddit, what you see from frustration within the community, especially those who are used to how WoW runs it, is like, why is there a race for world second? You know, like why everybody knows the person who's going to clear it won't be live. So everybody's just kind of watching who can clear it first live, you know, for example.
I think that when you look at how it's handled moving forward, it actually starts to make it feel more like some of these, like the PvP invitationals, where, you know, or like when like Fortnite has a tournament or whatever, you're not necessarily looking for the best player in the world. You're looking for the best player in the tournament. Now, in theory, everybody that's been invited to the tournament is the best, but there could be some person who doesn't chase claim or fame or whatever, and they never register for the tournament. And that person could technically be better at Fortnite or Call of Duty or whatever it is. And so you're really only looking at the best of the competitors moving forward. And I think that makes a lot of sense because there was a big prize this time. There was a serious prize put up by Corsair with a chair and like all sorts of peripherals. And so, you know, there are some people that are frustrated that they feel like that means world first is taken away by non-content creators, but it's no different than saying like, well, technically there might be some street racer out there who's a better driver than anybody in whatever racing circuit you watch, or there might be somebody playing at your local basketball court who's better than some people in the NBA. But ultimately what you're saying is the prize is being offered to the people who chose to partake in the live version, and the live version shares part of its proceeds with those people. And that obviously varies based on like how many proceeds we're talking about here. But in this case, the world first race raised like $56,000 for charity, and Corsair, to make it more of an event, put up a serious prize pool for the 8 clear members. I did kind of wonder, since most of these teams have at least one ninth man, if they were going to give them 9 chairs, or if the team is going to like pull up something to like give their ninth, because the ninth man puts in just as much effort and just as many hours from my perspective. They do a lot of work. A lot of times there's more than one ninth man. Like ninth man is just kind of this reference to like the support team. You know, when you talk about people that are doing crafted gear, when you talk about people that are going and grabbing clips from either that team or other teams and like helping organize their thoughts. And on the WoW side, those people are like add-on developers. So they're updating their add-ons because people are like, oh, add-on solved the price. The add-on doesn't know the fight. So their add-ons are being built in real time because they are relying on those add-ons to get through the fights. And so I did kind of wonder how they were like, now that we actually have real prizes on the line, do only the 8 people kind of on the court get prizes? But that's just a technicality question. I was just curious. So yeah, I think that Frosty saying, okay, this has become kind of a big thing. And now that I'm organizing the, you know, kind of the major league version of this, I really don't have time to be tracking what everybody's doing. I just have time to track the people who are going to enter into kind of the tournament.
Yeah.
And
that's
you don't have to be a content creator. He said like people were like, oh, you have to be a content creator. No, you just have to have a Twitch channel.
Yeah.
You could just broadcast just to Ferocity. He just,
and those are free.
A stream archive. Those are free.
Yeah.
So like, you just need to have real progression so that they can go back and see, hey, this is how many attempts it took, so that you can start to see it's like, okay, obviously there's like a real progression here that shows that this is more natural. I still have questions of like, is he going to expect to see all 8 POVs? Because if anybody's running these add-ons, if one person's running Zoom and then that person helps inform the diagrams when they're talking about it on Discord, and the other 7 POVs are all broadcast to Twitch, then like technically they still have that unfair advantage. So how far are we going to go with this? And then will they do some polls offline to get what they need and then go back suddenly online? And so like it's never going to satisfy, but I think that Frosty's made the best reasonable attempt to instill some trust and integrity in the race that seems to have been lost. I don't think these add-ons are new, but I don't know. I don't know. That's kind of my thought is I think Frosty's made the best logical decision. Frosty's Twitch channel is now rebranded Mog Talk. Like the whole thing's just moved towards like, this is becoming a bigger, more official thing. And so we're going to have bigger, more official standards.
Yeah. It's when it's reached a certain level of success, and like, that's the right call. And essentially I think you're right in terms of having it to where you submit. It doesn't mean you have to be a content creator, but be able to stream, be able to provide that, and then now enter yourself and your team into the tournament itself, and then go nuts and have fun. And that's what gets tracked, because that's where I think a lot of people are growing frustrated, is that everything's getting tracked, and the ones that are winning, you can't watch, you can't tune in, you can't oh, it turns out like, hey, they've actually gotten further here, and you end up seeing kind of people jump in and out and having those kind of celebrations. I think that will be really cool to see how that plays out forward. Now, the other thing, I don't know if you had a chance to follow any of this at all, but I'd be kind of curious. Unless there's anything 14 or that you want to talk about before I throw you another topic that I find will be
No, I
very
haven't. I'm going to do the Valentine's Day event this week, and
good.
I'm excited that we're ever closer to the half patch. So there's nothing eventful right now, which I guess is why we had to make up a bunch of exciting stuff to talk about.
Like, okay, cool, yeah, great. We had nothing else.
I thought it was a really safe week to take off. I was like, yeah, I mean, there's going to be ultimate progression, but I don't really have much to add in that space because I'm not a good player. So
yeah,
like I'll come back and see how the race turned out, and I'll keep an eye on it, and it'll be like, oh, and then somebody won, and that'll be it.
I think it was actually a good week to take off personally. The memes were great. Like the memes are what, like I wasn't following any of it, and I was like, all right, like, oh yeah, okay. But then like Chris made it like a funny meme, I thought, like over on Twitter, that was great. And then lots of people posting funny like memes of like, hey, here's a little bit on the moon, and then you see like the zoom out thing in the background. It's like, yeah, I was just like, wow, I love how creative people were getting with all that. Now, I want to say thanks to Cyril for the Prime sub. Appreciate the support, and Fraggle Rock, you cracked me up. That was so funny with the comment. I did see it, but I couldn't highlight it because I can only highlight the YouTube ones. Are you ready to get to have your blood boiled?
Sure.
Okay. So Halo is moving to the Unreal Engine. Certain Affinity, who's been working on the Battle Royale, appears to be taking over. 343 is laid off a lot of its leadership and staff, but there's still going to be someone involved. But they're doing a real hard pivot. And we don't know if it's going to be related to Halo Infinite or if they're literally just saying, well, we had this Battle Royale getting close to being ready to go. Halo is dropping the slip space engine, which they spent millions and hundreds of millions of dollars on, and they're making a pivot. So I don't know. Like I know this isn't going to be in your hype wheelhouse because there's nothing to see or to touch today. But I know that as somebody who has been disappointed with Infinity, and especially with you, like you called out like the core issues right at the start, and they really have yet to resolve some of that, to the point where I don't feel invited back into the game personally. I know people have said that the winter update, they've made some changes, and I was like, I just can't yet bring myself to it. It doesn't feel significant. And now, almost like the DC universe, which we haven't talked about those plans yet, but with Halo Infinite, they're going a whole nother direction. Does this make you somewhat happy, or does this make you even more salty?
Oh, I'm just glad it was included in Game Pass. Because I did not get a lot of joy out of that game, and we look for an hour of joy for every dollar we spend, and they gave the game to me for free, and I got some joy, and so I came out ahead, as opposed to Call of Duty charged me like $70 or whatever the new one is, and so that was a bigger gamble, and I think I'm already past the 70-hour of joy point. Like I've had a lot of fun in that game, because they have maps and modes. And then once the game had been out like a month or two, they added more maps and more modes
and progression that makes sense and that's fun and it feels rewarding. And like every time you play, I feel like that was fun, even if I didn't have the best game I've ever played.
Yeah, I don't get experience anymore because I'm capped, but
humble brag.
I've almost capped all the guns. Sniper rifles are going to take me forever because I'm so bad. Almost capped the first one, and I got another one like halfway. It's just a nightmare. But yeah, and then they have like a cool camo system and all this other stuff. So I've got like 100 of the 200 camos I've done, and so like I'm finding myself being this completionist in a Call of Duty in a way that I haven't in a long time. And so when you ask about like Halo, why would I trust them again? Like the answer is because it's going to be free in Game Pass. So I'll just download it and then I'll just uninstall it if it's not good. And I have a nice big hard drive on my Xbox, so I can always have like 2 games installed at a time. So I'll just make it one of my 2.
One of the 2.
As these games slowly become like a terabyte of data because they've got to include like 60 million battle passes.
Yeah, Forspoken was 150 gigs. I think it actually only took up 100, but it was like have room for 150. That's what we were going to make sure that you have allocated for it. So I was like, okay. But yeah, like these games are massive.
Which I will say, like if you don't have 150 gig, I don't know what you're doing with a 4090. So
Yeah.
it's fine. They already asked you to have
priorities, man. Priorities.
They already asked you to have next year's computer, so I don't think hard drive space is really where people are going to complain about that game.
It was between the 4090 and the 33 megabyte hard drive.
I can only fit one in the time machine. So just like the graphics card that's good enough for it came out after the original release date. So that Halo going into Unreal feels, who I feel bad for is all the people who like worked on Halo Infinite, who they're like, hey, we need to redo Halo. And they're like, cool, I'm really good at working on Halo, so my job is safe. And they're like,
nope.
Yeah, we're not keeping the engine that you guys built. Oh, then I am suddenly just as qualified as anybody else. And then immediately you're replaceable. And so like, I do feel for all the people who probably lost their jobs as a result of this, because they don't need them anymore because you're an expert on an engine that doesn't exist anymore. Yeah. But at the same time, you worked on a team that produced like 6 maps with like $100 bajillion. So
to me, that's just the
somebody's head had to roll.
To me, that's just leadership. To me, like whenever you look at these kind of situations, it always comes down to the people who are in charge. Like when we look at like BioWare, when we look at all of these big misses, it's like, and I don't know if that's the people that are above the people that are in charge or like making these like, you know, declarations, but at its core, whenever you have these like meetings over meetings and nothing gets decided and no direction is ever clear. And I mean, essentially for me, I think when I think of 343 now personally, I think of Halo during the TV series of from Xbox. Like when I play Gears of War 5 and the game feels so good and the entire experience, no matter what mode I'm playing, no matter what map I'm playing, no matter who I'm playing with, it's very like, it feels like a very clear vision. And then you step into Infinite and you're like, I have no idea like why this doesn't even like call up the coalition, get on the phone with them and get some direction, get some leadership, because Gears 5 for me, like it might not be your kind of shooter, you know, it's a third person shooter, but it's not even about the third person shooter. It's the entire experience felt great. And my only complaint about Gears 5 has always been, I wish they gave me more reason to play it. I wish it was more a games as a service, a live service based game. I wish it had more PvE elements and PvP. Like I wish there was more reason to live in that world, because it would be fun. I think that would be a natural evolution for that franchise. But Halo, I was really excited about Infinite. And then you get in, the menus are weird. Figuring out your progression and your setup and all of these things are weird. And it's just like, okay, I'm trying to like it. I'm trying to like, I like the maps. Like I thought the maps that they did release were great. They were beautiful maps. I don't think there was one map that if it ever popped up that I was just groaning and, you know, annoyingly. I do have those maps in certain games, and in Halo 5 I had a couple of maps that I just never wanted to play on, but
the new Call of Duty, some were awful, but yeah, when my brother argues that they're awful, I was like, yeah, but they exist. Like at a certain point, like I would love to be in a world where we're comparing Halo to Call of Duty, because I think Halo beats Call of Duty, but like they just didn't show up.
Yeah.
So like all the Halo fans are pointing at Call of Duty and they're like, wow, those 11 maps, like 7 of them suck. Yeah, but there's 11.
There's 11 at least.
And they've gone ahead and introduced like basically they put Tarkov in their game, and then now there's a raid in the game, and like there's story in the game, and that's available co-op from day one, and like it just like at a certain point, like, and their experience grind for people that care about that is easy and reasonable, and they have double XP weekends and all these things that are just like included. I don't know, it just like felt like the game just did such a great job of just being a game. And we live in an era where every game wants to like be life-changing and save your marriage and cure cancer and fix the flat tire on your car. And somehow we've lost sight of the fact that like, what if it was just a game? And what if it just released and did all the game things? Because for some reason, when they swing to be like the second coming of Christ, they end up not being a game.
Yeah.
And so then you end up with something that's like, they're not even the thing they're supposed to be. And that should be good enough. Like if you just play a game and have fun, as long as that game hasn't tied it to like hypothetically, like some large person saying that all the proceeds they make off of that franchise would go to making the world worse for a group of people. Like if that were to happen, then it would be really hard to support a game that was good as a game. But as long as games are just games, I think it's really easy to support that, as long as you don't have some person saying that their proceeds will go to hate or something weird.
I think I'm hopeful for Halo, as always. Like, I think that with this pivot, I don't think they get another pivot. I mean, they have Game Pass, right? Like, they have Game Pass, right? So, like, it will always be free. I don't think Halo as a franchise is doomed, but I think essentially, and I've seen chat say, like, make other games in the Halo universe. It doesn't always have to be 100% focused on Master Chief. One of the things I think Call of Duty has really nailed down is legitimately coming out all the time. There's always there's always a Call of Duty game to kind of be talking about, right? Halo is like, yeah, remember us? Last time you saw us, it was like what was it? Like last decade? And we're back. Yeah.
But why release Infinite when they could have just doubled down on the Master Chief model? Like, the Master Chief model's so good, and they could have just sold packs to just pile on top. Like,
yeah.
And so you just keep bolting on, like The Sims, right? You just keep buying add-on packs for Master Chief Collection. Like, hey, we came up with a new mode, Battle Royale, and if you buy Battle Royale, it'll just go into your Master Chief operating system, and the whole thing will just be great, because Master Chief has a higher average concurrence than Halo Infinite from everything I've seen.
Yeah.
And that's it's a better game, and it just functions. And like Halo 5 just functions, and it's great. And so, like, they already had something good. So Halo Infinite is just so many missteps simultaneously. And then how do you hire people into a proprietary engine? You have to take it like...
You have to train them.
You have to train them all the way up. So you lose like a whole year just trying to get this person up to speed. So I think moving to Unreal, like, I guess good for you, but do you want me to say thank you for doing something you should have done probably long ago? Like, I don't know. The whole thing is...
It started in Unreal, and then they decided to make it, and it's like Slipspace is a derivative of Unreal, but then now they're back.
I just feel like in general, they should have just... At this point, you just have to show me. There's nothing they can say. You just have to show me. And and we've seen other games. WoW's in the same spot. Dragonflight just has to show. Like, it's great that they're coming out and making statements, and like, you don't want to go totally dark. Like, you don't want to...
Because season 3 is supposed to drop here in March.
You don't want to have people have to like get a golden ticket and tell their grandparents who all sleep in the same bed or something to like know what's going on. you want some communication, but the communication is mostly just to check the box. There's very little that Ian can come out and say that fixes people's opinion of WoW. What fixes people's opinion of WoW is showing up. 10.0.5 being on time, and then the next patch, and then 10.1 being on time. Like, these are the things that will make WoW better. And so if you want me to come back from Halo Infinite, show me. Like, there's nothing they can say. They're like, we fired everybody. Okay, all right, that sucks for them, I guess. Like, I have no emotional investment in that game. And people said, oh, the new season's so much better. I just can't even bring myself to reinstall. It's free, and it's too expensive to come back.
Well, yeah, and when you talk about that limited hard drive space, like, that is actually the premium. Like,
I would have to uninstall COD to put Halo back on. And why would I uninstall it? COD's fun. Right. I mean, don't get me wrong. I shout angry obscenities at the screen, but like, I did that in all the CODs, so that's just COD.
Now, the thing that I'm pondering, and I just haven't, obviously, I don't have an answer, is that what kind of turnaround are we looking? Because if this is something that's like, they have season 3 for Infinite scheduled for March, and then if they end up sticking with these like 6-month seasons, like the player population's super low. Like, if the morale's down and low, and if they're also we know that they've already announced this pivot. My hope is that this is a pivot that we actually get to see happening pretty soon, because they have been working on the Battle Royale. And if they can take in and bring in Arena into the Battle Royale package, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, here we go. That in and of itself becomes that next hype cycle. And then if they can knock that out of the park, then I think I think it has to happen within 2 years, because if you're just going to string Halo Infinite, like, on barely any kind of life support, like, it's going to be set it, forget it. And then, in 2 years, like, oh yeah, that is a thing that I forgot about.
I don't think you have to have a Battle Royale if you don't want to. Like, you don't have to be the biggest game to be successful. Path of Exiles is not the biggest game, and they do quite well in what is a niche genre. So like, if you just want to be supported at the degree that Arena supports you, then just do that. Like, and if you want to just be a campaign-based game, like this, this Elder Scrolls does great. The God of War series does great. So like you can do fine. You can win your category at the Game Awards and all that. If you want to be big in the streaming space, then you need to look at either being the next big thing, which is who knows what it is, or you have to be big in the genres that are fun to watch. And so like it starts to be things about competitive. It starts to be things about creating these opportunities for people of these incredible skill levels to be really entertaining. Mm-hmm. And Halo can do that in Arena. It's fun to watch people play at that crazy top level. You just can't do it with only 6 maps and giving people like the best gun. Like the fact that you start with a battle rifle is stupid. It's just dumb because why would I swap it for a pistol? Like it's the pistol's worse in every way. So the fact that you have such a good time to kill on the weapon that everybody spawns with starts to take a lot of the fun out of like, oh, they picked that up. It's about to go down.
Well, it takes away
because like everybody has a battle rifle, and like a team full of organized players with a battle rifle are just shredding through each other.
Well, and then it also takes away part of the game of control the map with Halo, because like you want to make sure you lock down the power weapons. Otherwise, like you could be great, but you get the other team, all of a sudden they pick up those power weapons, and boom, they're right back in the fight. And so it's like you want to have those ideas and those timers ready to rock and roll. Now, Nevuling says just use the plot from the TV show for the next game. I haven't actually seen the TV show. I haven't heard good things about it, but then I've heard a lot of good things about The Last of Us. So maybe
the TV show for Halo, my understanding is The Last of Us TV show, which I have not seen, just said, hey, the game's really good. What if we just did that? Okay. Now the Halo writers said, we got a chance to write for the Halo TV show. So step one, we're pretty excited that none of us have ever played a Halo game and aren't going to. And so they like bragged that they were like, well, then why even be a Halo show? Why not just be like Marines in space? Like if you're just going to make things up.
Yeah.
Space Marines is an open thing now. Games Workshop lost that. So you can say Space Marines now. They no longer own that term.
Space Marines.
Which, if anybody who plays Warhammer, if you ever wondered why the now Space Marines are now called Primaris Space Marines, it's because they lost. They lost, and they don't own the term Space Marines. So they had to come up with a new name and then replace the model, and now everybody runs Primaris.
There you go.
Because they can own the word Primaris.
All right, so I have another topic I'd love to hear your thoughts on January 31st. As the last day of the month, as James Gunn gave out his detailed list of what he is going to be doing with the rebooted DC universe. This includes a couple of really cool things, in my opinion, that he's going to be attempting to do, where as a part of their contracts for signing actors, they will be having a connected universe, as opposed to like his phrase was, we had Warner Brothers giving out IP to anybody who smiled at them. And what he wants to do is kind of make sure that as a part of the DC universe itself, TV, animation, and movies. And he also mentioned games. And that's something that like they didn't announce any games. And games take a long time to make. So that's going to be something.
They want one actor to be across all platforms?
Yes.
So hypothetically, if you had an actor kind of go off the deep end, who like played a character that had a special power, like they ran really fast or something.
Yeah, super fast.
Wouldn't you then just be screwed if you tied them to like every piece of property?
Yeah, you're screwed anyway.
Well, you got to hope something like that would never happen.
Yeah, and unfortunately, and that's one of the things I've seen actually people kick back and be angry, because as a part of his announcement slate, he's talked about the upcoming movies, the Shazam, the Flash, and Aquaman, which are all kind of a part of that Snyderverse finale, right? But what they don't want to do is like, hey, we spent hundreds of millions on these movies and we're marketing these movies. Don't let the world know that these actors, all this doesn't matter. So that like a lot of people are like, he's not, they're keeping this guy. Why? And they got rid of Cavill. This is awful. And I was like, I don't think they're keeping the Flash. I think they're not publicly saying that he's out until his movie is at least out on the market, so that they can.
Once it's released to VHS, they'll drop him.
Yeah, it's like, all right, cool. That was end of
the road.
End of the road. So, but one of the things he said, like, is obviously we have the Flash TV show and we have the Flash in the movie. So, what he wants is to have like a cohesive, like, kind of vision and story, which could be interesting to see what ultimately happens. His first true release is going to be Superman Legacy on July 11th, 2025. and that is, I guess, kicking up production. We don't know who
And that's
Superman is
not
yet.
Cavill.
It's not Cavill. That's going to be something else. Somebody else.
The most handsome double chin. When my wife and I played the Newlywed game at her family, they hosted Christmas this year. And we went there and they played the Newlywed game. And one of the questions my wife was asked what my celebrity crush was, and I don't have one. And so then, but that could be the answer. Like, as long as both people go, they don't have one, you're good. And so I wrote, I don't have one. My wife wrote that mine was Henry Cavill. So apparently it's Henry Cavill. Like, we don't like bards, and I like Henry Cavill. I had no idea. And she's like, you do. I had no idea. She's like, he paints Warhammer. And I go, well, that is a pretty good quality in a person.
Learning something about myself every day.
So I'm a big fan of Henry. I've been notified.
There you go. Also, here's what's interesting, because I see Chad talking about making Pattinson the new Batman. There is the Batman and Joker movies, and those are going to be titled DC Elsewhere movies. This is going to be under the DC Elsewhere brand, and they will be doing a Batman Brave and the Bold, with essentially with Batman, and why am I drawing a blank on the Robin? Damian. Damian's going to be the Robin in this one, so it's going to be setting up the Bat family in the DC universe, and that's going to be the next Batman that's a part of this shared universe. So Pattinson's universe is going to be off in the Elsewhere world, along with the next Joker, which I hear is a musical.
So can we just not do another origin?
Yeah, I don't think they're going to be doing origin stories. I think everybody's just fatigued of origin stories.
Like I don't know. Let's just put a date on it. I'm not saying never. 2035. 2035, next origin. That's fine. And please don't promote it until like 2032. Like, just leave us alone for like another decade.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So the big thing that I'm actually kind of curious about is I don't know if you follow a lot of the characters, but Booster Gold is actually going to be a part of the DC universe, and he's a time traveling hero or loser from the future. With his technology, comes back to try and be a superhero overall. I've enjoyed like the animation of the Booster Gold stuff, and I personally am actually very excited to see and what they end up doing with him. I'm hoping, dreaming, if you will, Nathan Fillion would be like an incredible Booster Gold that I would love to see. Like, they're like, when you start kind of then fan casting, I think that would be something absolutely just totally like up his wheelhouse. To see if they're able to pull off something like that. But his role, like, he's been in the MCU in these like very like various different subtle ways that it's not like kind of mainstream. So I don't know if they would like, if he'd be interested in me signing on, because again, once you like, if you're signing on for the DCU, like, hey, we're going to do this animated cartoon.
Are you going to own that actor forever?
Right.
Like, now they have to like live in your pre-done apartment and they can't leave the campus, and like, are these the modern mining cities where you're going to get paid in like company credit? It's like, this is what you do.
You are a beautiful person.
We're going to sign on these fresh 18-year-olds, and we're going to just use them as actors for 40 years, and you can't do anything else. Because like that's what's flawed about this. Like, it sounds really great, but there's a reason that we swap out bonds and stuff every few years or whatever. Yeah. Because like, actors have lives. You know, that's the same issue with games. These games take like 10 years to make now. So you have somebody who like they get out of college at 22, 25, and they at 55, 65 want to retire, and they've worked on 4 projects and only 2 of them got published. And that's their whole career. Like, that's what they did. That's all they got to do. So I don't know. I was ready to check out of the MCU once they Infinity War. So I guess if DC wants to give it a shot, then we can have unlimited war in DC, and then I can check out of that one. And then we can watch something other than superheroes for a while.
Like what?
I don't know.
AMC announced that they're going to increase like ticket prices based off of like what seat you sit in the theater, which my wife and I.
I'm gonna have to seat geek the movies.
It's been an interesting week because I was like, oh man, you know,
why? Just to be clear, the last several times I've gone to the movie, 3/4 of the seats are empty. I assume they're going to be charging me more for the seats I want, not less to fill those seats.
Correct.
So their idea of an industry that has yet to recover from when we all decided to stay home for a year or two is to raise the price. Well, if any of you have like a commercial idea for what to do with an abandoned movie theater, probably start lining up some finances.
Start lining that up theoretically.
Because there are already more than 2 theaters within a reasonable driving distance of my house that are boarded up. So I don't know what your plan is. I would lean more into the Alamo Drafthouse model where they start having like, they have like cereal and they play like old cartoons and you can go watch like old school. Like I could watch Johnny Quest on a Saturday morning and eat cereal as a bunch of adults. And then they have like late night screenings that are like adult only so that, you know, if you want to see a kid's movie without kids, you have that option. And then they have like family friendly movies where the lights are on and then kids are allowed to have iPads for parents that are like, I'd go to the movies, but I feel really guilty. And so like it just by offering all these different ways to consume their products, the reasons that you don't go get removed. And they'll have like big showings. Like we're going to show the movie that came before this right before it. And you can buy a double feature ticket and there'll be an intermission. And like, I don't know. I think that's the better method than saying like, but what if we just charged more?
I know. You know what's really keeping people out of these theaters? My
bank account is just so filled with money that the movies just don't spend it. It's Brewster's Millions, and I can't go to the movies. They don't take the money fast enough. I mean, they have popcorn at the bargain price of $13, and it's just not. You got to charge me
more. Yeah, so that's been all the kind of like news developments of kind of gaming entertainment over the course of the last week that. While you've been out, and I can't think of any other topics. So if there's anything else you want to talk about, if there's anything chat wants us to kind of weigh in on, I guess now is the perfect opportunity because we got 15 minutes before I got to get back to work.
I like watching movies by myself. I went to my first movie by myself. I think I was like 28 or 29. And I had work meetings and they were far apart. And I was just stuck on that side of town. And I had nothing to do. I had no work to do. And I just had like 3 hours to kill because there was like a dinner meeting. And so I was going to have to work a long day anyway because I was going to have to work after the dinner meeting to like file a bunch of stuff based on how that meeting went. Mm-hmm. And so I just went and saw like a matinee by myself. And I said, like, I'll just take a ticket for one. And he goes, just for one? And like, it felt like Jonah Hill was like, this is going to like be really lonely. And then it was a matinee. So like, it was like me and like one other guy in the movie theater who's sitting like 40 feet from me way back before social distancing was a phrase. And like, it was awesome. Nobody leaned over and goes, I like this next part. I don't care. Like, I haven't seen it yet. Stop doing that. So I don't want people to talk. Your brother came skiing with me and like, I was watching a movie on the couch and he walked in with a bag of chips. He goes, oh man, movie's on. I'm going to talk through this. That's what he said. And I was like, I guess I'm done then. Like I just, and he goes, yeah, I love ruining movies. Like he sat there and like he just said it like that. And I was like, all right, well, I'm going to go do something else then. And he did. He sat down.
Take a married man with 4 kids and you take him and you're like, what do you expect? He's got to find some level of entertainment.
Stop.
Like I usually get racked like 3 or 4 times if we're trying to watch a movie here with the family. Because at some point during the movie, you end up just getting crawled on, kicked, and whatnot. It's just it's a part of it, Like there's nothing like seeing Moana and in pain.
It's just weird when like my best viewing experience is like on an airplane because that's the least somebody messes with me. Like I'm on my own screen, it's right in front of my face, got my headphones on, nobody's talking, lights are out. It's like when turbulence is the part of the optimal viewing experience because everywhere else somebody
or if it aligns with the scene in the movie, you're like, whoa, I'm a part of this. This is immersive. Now, Chad asked us to talk about The Day Before. This is an upcoming game that's been surrounded by a lot of questionable practices, a lot of speculation that it isn't even a real game. I think the latest round is that they've been using assets from like the Unreal or Unity store or something like that. And I was like, so like my general opinion of it is like, I couldn't
have they shown
bothered.
Gameplay?
Yeah. Like, and then
the gameplay has like placeholder images.
No. Like they have like this girl in this like tight yoga pants, and I saw a lot of people calling that out. Like she's wearing like you see ass crack and all, and you're like, all right, this is how we're going.
Do they say they're their assets? So like Earth 2 tried passing off like standard assets as their own. So like Earth 2 is a blatant scam. So if you want to get into the Earth 2 saga, there is a YouTuber named Callum Upton who is doing like a bunch of really cool D&D stuff with Just Right Face, and they're doing like a whole thing. But Callum Upton, Earth 2 is where you go to fall down that rabbit hole. And that is what a scam looks like. I can't say it is a scam, and I'm not backed by any lawyer or anything, but like if I were to describe a scam, not Earth 2, but just like what a scam might look like, a hypothetical scam, I think Earth 2 would be like a lot of the good visual representation of what a scam might appear to be.
I don't know if
I'm
it's
not
like
saying they're
level,
stealing your money, but my God.
Then they also matched up the trailer like to all these other different kind of trailers shot for shot, like in terms of like pacing and how they like they present it. And so a lot of people obviously like they originally were going to launch, and then they had their Steam page taken down because they forgot to trademark the day before as the title, and somebody else got that.
Somebody goes, "Oh, I actually trademarked that."
Yeah.
The day before.
Oh, good choice. Good choice. And then essentially now it's been delayed like 8 months, and they're like, "Hey, we're going to show gameplay, etc." My personal thing of it is that if the game's fun, all of this doesn't matter. But what this would point me to tell you is don't pre-order the game. Like, don't give them money until they show up. And if you're having fun with the game, I don't care if they use an asset from like a pre-bought package of assets. I've bought assets from the Unity store, in that regard. I was
playing a game with my brother-in-law, and like we went and actually used. There's some people out there that just put out free assets, and we just used them as placeholders. And like, you need a bush, and so you grab a bush, and you need a guy with a sword, so you grab a guy with a sword, and they're like totally different art styles, and it's just placeholders, right? You're like, yeah. Like I just need to get. I
just need to move forward.
I just need a thing that's moving. But you don't like release that. Like all that gets swapped out for something that is what you actually want to use, because then you're like, oh, I realized I don't even like the sword. I want the guy to have a hammer. So like, rather than spend a bunch of time drawing perfect assets, get the game working first. And so when like the Grand Theft Auto thing released, when it got leaked and like all the assets were all junk, and people were like, wow, this looks like junk. And it's like, yeah, it almost looks like a version they didn't want to release.
Yeah.
Shocking.
Placeholders. Yeah.
So if you're just using like placeholder stuff, that makes sense. And you pay some intern to like, hey, just go find me a bunch of assets and we'll drag and drop them. And then once we have the game kind of fleshed out and we know what all of our asset list is, and we have like a complete list of everything we want drawn, we'll bring on some professional artists and they'll make the whole thing beautiful. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. That's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's like, I see a lot of people like on it, and in a weird way, kind of in a backwards way, I always just kind of look at it as like, is this just free marketing? Like, because at the end of the day, the game has to be good. If your game isn't good, it doesn't matter.
Yes.
But if it's bad, if the game ends up being bad, then all this will be is like we like it will just be fuel for fodder and easily forgotten. Chat says it was the most wish listed game on Steam. Like a wish list though is like that's pressing a button. Oh, it was or like at some point most it's like, okay, like I don't really worry about it because I don't feel.
Yeah, I mean, there are people that have moved on from Ashes of Creation to the Riot MMO. Like they're already exactly. And they've already moved on. It's like, what do you mean you already moved on? That one hadn't even come out yet. So they're really just always looking for an MMO that is at least 2 years out, because once they're within 2 years, you start to realize, oh, it's just going to be a game. I thought it was going to be way better than that. But if the gameplay video came out, that's where you have to start saying like, okay, they're choosing to show this. So like one of the things about Ashes of Creation is when they say that Ashes of Creation is vaporware, it looks pretty good for vaporware. Like if it's vaporware, there's real gameplay that is really theirs, whether you like it or not, and whether the art style is your favorite or not, or whether it's fully polished or cleaned up yet or not, that's fine. But it is real. Like they really are running in the world. And he really is running around and doing things. And
right, you don't know what's going on behind those invisible walls that you can't see past those mountains or those ruins. Like that, there could be nothing back there. And
but there probably is. Like you're usually doing a technical demo. You're usually saying, hey, we're gonna have these 40 villages. Let's build half of one village and get everything working.
Yeah.
And we can always multiply it by 80, but let's just get it working, because I think they're still making fundamental changes to core systems.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of that, though, like they say it's released gameplay footage, and it looks like it was going to be, or at least it's 2 years away. Like nothing in that I don't feel scammed. I don't feel cheated yet, in that regards, because there isn't anything to
They didn't take your
purchase.
money.
It just sounds like it's a lot of hype, and maybe for just a mediocre game and I don't know the studio personally. Like, I went and looked them up and stuff, and it's like I'm not seeing like a track record of like, oh man, and they released this incredible game and this incredible game, and they're selling this game based off of this history. I could be wrong, but I haven't seen all that much out of
Yeah, I
them. So
think
it's like,
that was the frustration with like Fallout 76, right? When it
yeah,
released and it was all that hate, as opposed to something like Anthem, because it was not new IP. Like we expected we expected Fallout 76 to be good because there was a history and they have their one engine and they remake the same game 20 times and it was good the previous 19. So I assumed if they remade it, it would be good. And something about Fallout 76 just wasn't. And so I think it was reasonable to expect it to be better than it was and the frustration around it. And then when people were frustrated and they're like, and now there's a battle pass. It's like, wait, what?
I also added like a battle royale too.
So like that started to, that's a different thing than calling out some like brand new studio. Like Ashes has never released anything. And it's like, I don't expect it to be good on launch. And I think Steven should be really careful about it, making people expect it to be good on launch, because he should have the privilege of getting to be a new studio. The privilege of getting to be a new studio is, in trade for the fact that you get less pre-orders than an existing IP, you usually get a little more slack. Like people give you a little bit of trust. If Final Fantasy 16 is not good on launch, that is worse than if something from an established group, like if Octopath Traveler had not been good on launch. It was a brand new studio. They'd never built anything for that platform. And it's like when Octopath Traveler was good, that was truly incredible because we didn't expect them to be good at that.
Right.
And they were right out of the gate. So I think that's like, play your hand. And I think that Steven should be like, hey, we're really excited to be new in the space. And I think that's going to give us a fresh take. And in trade for that fresh take, like it's going to have some speed bumps. So that's what I'd expect the day before, to whatever they're changing the name to.
Yeah. Or if they keep it, or
the day after.
The day after. the day before.
Tomorrow is after.
Oh, it's gonna be crazy. Yeah, I mean, being that like it got pushed, like all of it just was like, yeah, like when they released the legal shenanigans stuff, I was like, it seems like you would have had that covered. And then, oh, guess what? It was delayed. It just, I don't know. It feels like they're just like aiming at the hip. I would call it like cowboy IT. If there's anybody here's watching that's in IT or like kind of a tech-based job, cowboy IT is like really where you're just like, all you do is fight fires. Like you don't have any time to kind of have any pre-thought. You just respond to whatever. And it feels like, and if they're going to delay it to the end of this year in and of itself, that's going to be really difficult too, because they're going to be going up against the heavy hitters, all the AAA studios, all the big games. You're going to have a lot of games, a lot of things competing for your attention this fall. And so if you're going to push into that space, that's going to be pretty crazy. All right. Neverlink says, so Twitter, I have no context, but to what that means. Chris, you're going to be jumping into the G-Shade stuff over on Twitch, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're going to do it.
Guys, go hang out with Chris over on Twitch right now as he dives into the G-Shade history on what's happening with that now and the recent issues with it, as he learns about all those crazy coding shenanigans going on. We're going to go ahead and end broadcast and send you guys on your merry way. Thanks, guys. Hopefully y'all enjoyed our week off, and hopefully we'll see you guys. Oh yeah, Twitter as Cowboy IT. That absolutely 100% true. Well, hopefully, guys, thanks for joining us, and we will see you guys next time. I'm gonna wave it out, let it